You've lived a great life and done well for yourself. But what mark will you leave on the world? How will you inspire future generations? Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand have helped thousands of people answer exactly those questions. If you've ever wondered, what will be my legacy? You're in the right place. Welcome to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Stan and Katie Beth.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is Stephen Ting with the podcast, the Legacy Stories. Today we have Ty Supancic from the Law Collaborative joining us, and we're excited to have him. And again, thank you for joining us today, Ty.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, great. So we're gonna learn a little bit about Ty and his practice today, and again, I think we're gonna have a lot of a good stories to share today. But we're gonna first turn back the hands of time a little bit. And Ty, I just wanted to ask you, why did you go to law school? What made you decide to go to law school?
Great question, Stephen. I didn't go to law school. In California and 7 other states, you can still become a lawyer the way Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln did. You can still read the law. In California, they call it the Law Office Study Program or the Law Office or Judges Chambers Study Program. You have to apply to the bar. You have to pay a small fee. You have to file reports every 6 months. And if you do so for 4 years, they let you take the bar, counting on you not passing. The fail rate is abysmal. But I did that program. I passed the bar. I was working as a paralegal in my father's family law firm the whole time. So I was getting paid. I had no law school debt. So it's what they used to call a simple country lawyer. That's what that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is not the orthodox way to go about it today, but yes, that's great. But why estate planning? How did you get into this particular field?
Well, it was interesting. My father had a bunch of his father's antique firearms, World War II rifles, specifically Springfield 30-06 rifles. He didn't want any more. And he said, "You want them?" "I don't want them anymore. They're under my bed." I said, "Sure." I took them. And then I thought, was that legal? And I looked into it and figured out how to make it legal. And I developed an interest in doing firearms trust planning. And then as a family law attorney, realized that at the end of every divorce, every client needs a new estate plan. You certainly need new powers of attorneys for healthcare, and now you've got this property confirmed to you. You want to control what happens to that when you're gone, and so everyone over the age of 18 needs some kind of estate planning. Maybe not as elaborate as someone who owns property, but you still need a healthcare power of attorney and documents like that. So that's really how I got into it and got interested.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And so over the years, I imagine you've had so many years of practice. What does all that mean to you now?
It means I'm able to help families. I'm able to help individuals. I'm able to help people plan and make sure that the legacy that they envision for their heirs, often their children, are come to pass without excessive fees, without excessive taxation, with protections from creditors and predators.
Yeah, right. And so how many years have you been practicing, and how did you start the Law Collaborative? Maybe tell us a little about that journey.
Sure. So I passed the bar and was sworn in 10. But I was a family law paralegal for 5 years prior to that. So that's how long I've been doing it. The law firm for decades was called the Law Offices of Ron Supancic, which was my father's name, which nobody could pronounce. It was a horrible, horrible name. I'm sure we didn't get referrals simply because people looked in the phone book and didn't want to try to say the name. So we came up with the Law Collaborative, which focuses on our unique approach, which is a collaborative law approach that when possible is far better for families than litigation and traditional adversarial, law practice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Who would you say is your ideal client?
People who care about their loved ones, people who care about what happens when they're gone. There are those people who say, "I'll be dead. I don't care what happens." They're not good estate planning clients. People who have worked hard and who have care and concern about what's going to happen to their loved ones in their absence.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. And there are different types of people out there, right? And we do run across those that some just don't care about what happens to their heirs, and then there's some that absolutely, it's a big part of what their planning process goes through. So yeah, how would these clients find you? How do they find you?
Generally through referrals. Generally through referrals from prior clients who were happy with the work we did for them. Oftentimes attorneys. People, call their lawyer friend and say, "Hey, I need this. Do you know anyone who does it?" And so they'll give out our name that way as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that trust factor is always it's a big deal in this field, right? What are some of the common issues that you generally find and that you help with?
Helping people come up with a plan. They very often just have generalized, unformed ideas about what might be nice, and I help explain to them that really they can do anything they want with their estate. They can put strings on it if necessary. They can design plans that encourage kids to work harder. They can design plans that reward children who go into less rewarding fields. Sometimes parents will say, I don't want my kids to become, trust fund babies or,
Yep.
layabouts and bums. So I want to reward them for hard work. I'll only give them as much money as they earn. And I say, okay, that's great. What if they go into education? Is that child going to be penalized because they chose something that involves a great deal of hard work, but not the same kind of monetary rewards as going into something else? And it's like, oh,
Right.
okay, yeah. Well, and sometimes that makes a difference for them, and sometimes they say, nope. if they choose to be a teacher, that's on them. Oh, okay, it's their legacy.
Right, and that is the word. Yeah.
Yeah, and to circle back to the way the firearms planning, guns are not like other kinds of assets. And if someone owns a gun and they don't do special planning for it, they are setting their heirs up for accidental felonies. The government, police, ATF does not take ignorance as a defense, and there are so many restrictions on the conveyance of firearms that if they don't do proper planning, they're really setting up their heirs for possible jail time.
Wow. I imagine not a lot of people know about that.
They
Even
don't.
fire. Yeah.
Yeah, they don't. They
Folks that
figure,
own that,
it's just like a watch or a car. No, it's not. You can give a Rolex watch to a 5-year-old. You
Right.
can't give a gun to a 5-year-old.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's good. What are some common misconceptions?
Common misconceptions that it has to go to probate, that there has to be a judge involved, that there have to be horrible taxes paid, that they don't have control, that certain things happen automatically. A lot of people don't understand that if you are unconscious when they take you to the hospital, the doctors don't know who to contact. Your family calling around to hospitals to try to locate you. If there's not a HIPAA authorization in your pocket, doctors typically can't really even say, yes, that person's been admitted here. A lot of medical practitioners consider that a violation of the HIPAA laws. I give my clients a wallet card that provides doctors access to their healthcare planning documents. So if they are unconscious when they're admitted to a hospital, the doctors know who to talk to, who to contact. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. We I think that there are so many. You hit on some of these bullet points that misconceptions, very common misconceptions, right? And I think that majority of the people are just not educated enough on the base level, right? So yeah, that's great. But maybe can you tell us maybe of a story that you've run across or experienced of estate planning gone wrong?
Yeah, yeah. So I got a call from a woman. She was in Los Angeles. Her son was in a fight in a bar in San Diego. He was admitted to or I'm sorry, he was initially jailed. Something happened to him in jail. He was rendered unconscious long term. He had not executed a healthcare power of attorney. His mother couldn't get him out of the hospital in San Diego. She was living in Los Angeles. It became this huge burden to travel to visit him. She didn't have any power because he hadn't executed a healthcare power of attorney. They don't care that it's his mom. He's over the age of 18. She didn't have the resources to file the kinds of documents that she'd need in court to get control. It was a very, very, very sad situation. That happens all the time. I got a call from a woman whose longtime boyfriend told her, "When I die, you can keep living on the boat." They had a beautiful boat in Ventura Harbor. "You can keep living on the boat, and you can keep the rental income from the apartment buildings. You can't sell them, but you can have that as your income to help support you in the boat until you die." And she thought she was set, and he died, and she was served with eviction papers, a wrongful detainer notice. Estate plan he had done online did not do what he thought it did, or maybe it did. It's possible he had no intention of her living on the boat. It's possible he had no intention of her getting that income, but she was heartbroken because she was rendered homeless, no means of support. If she'd been married to him, she'd have certain rights under community property law,
Right. Yep.
But she wasn't, and whatever the plan was, very sad. My mother's best friend married an older gentleman, a World War II pilot, a bomber pilot. And she would ask him from time to time. They were married 20 years. She would ask him from time to time, "What happens when I die? Don't worry about it. It's in the blue binder." "What blue binder?" "Don't worry about it. It's in the blue binder." "Can I see the binder?" "It's in the binder." Of course, he dies. There's no binder.
There's no binder.
Sister sweeps in, kicks out wife. They'd never retitled the property in her name. She didn't have the means to prosecute her position. She ended up dying while she was couch surfing. Very sad.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, thanks for those stories. How about maybe a story that's gone right?
Clients with a special needs son, several other kids. How many other kids? I think they had 5 kids altogether. One of them was special needs. They decided that when they died, the family residence would be sold where the special needs son lived, and the money would be divided among the kids. And they did this plan in advance, many years in advance. Unfortunately, the rule of, well, not the rule of thumb, the average seems to be that between people doing an estate plan and redoing an estate plan, revisiting it, seems to be about 20 years.
Yep.
And it had been about that long, and the circumstances had changed. And thankfully, when mom and dad finally passed during COVID within quick succession of each other, the flexibility in the plan for the other siblings to say, "Look, we don't need the money. Our parents took care of us in other ways. We don't need the money from the house sale. Special needs sibling can continue living in that house. We're going to it was really wonderful. That doesn't happen a lot of times because parents will bake into their estate plan clauses they think are fair, but they won't tell the kids about them. And then the kids will fight about what mom and dad would have wanted. But this estate plan was so clear that the kids could see that this is what our parents wanted. They didn't really plan for it properly, but we have the flexibility in the plan to make what they wanted happen. And none of the kids felt spurned, none of the kids felt wronged or slighted, and so they worked this thing, and it's really beautiful when that happens. Divorce is sad, but when siblings never talk to each other again because they disagree about what mom or dad would have wanted in their estate planning or their lack of estate planning, that's even more sad, because these are kids that have blood relations, and I know cases where cousins who were very close never get to see each other again because their parents are fighting over a disagreement because mom's estate plan wasn't clear.
Yep.
Or it was clear, but mom didn't tell them what it was she actually wanted. And so one of the kids at least, thinks that it wasn't clear.
Right. Yeah. A lot of times without that document, it's left to interpretation,
and without conversation about the document. When I do planning, I encourage my clients, let's have a family meeting. Let's explain to your kids that this is what you want to have happen. And that way they're asking you the questions, not me the questions when you're dead.
Yeah,
or
that's
not their siblings the questions when you're gone.
Right. Yeah, very good, very good. What would you say is your biggest challenge at this point?
Getting people to understand how critically important it is to have an estate plan, how much money they're going to lose, how much money their heirs are going to lose, how much time is going to be lost in probate, how long and arduous that is, how the kids are going to be put out, maybe having to advance personal funds to cover costs that you would never have wanted as a parent. Really, the greatest gift a parent can give their kids, I believe, is a properly written estate plan, so that in the midst of grief, in the fog of grief and despair, they're not also trying to figure out what to do or what you would have wanted. I mean, it's unnecessarily. It's cruelty by neglect or cruelty by omission. But it's an act of passive cruelty to make kids, while they're mourning your loss, try to figure out what to do with your stuff, or. Yeah. And people, I guess, people are in denial about dying. They think they never will, or they'll have plenty of advance notice. They'll know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it certainly sounds like you're very passionate about what you do. And what would you say is maybe one particular area that you really like best about what you do?
Helping families come up with things that maybe sometimes are bigger than that. I've had clients that had really, really grand goals. They want to, create a scholarship or a foundation, or they want to endow, something so that, people in their, kids in their neighborhood, disadvantaged kids, can go to school, but they don't have the means. And so they don't think it's a possibility. And sometimes it is. Sometimes through insurance products, you can really accomplish some amazing things if that's the goal. And then other clients say, no, I want it to be as simple as possible. I just want this, and this to happen, and I feel really good about it. And I'll say, great. Like just week before last, big age difference in the kids. They didn't want anything complex. They just wanted the kids to get the money when they turned 21. I said, God forbid something happens to you soon. There's such an age difference between the kids that if you give the older one half and then the other one half, the older one might already have a college education. The other one might already own a home. That's not really fair to give a kid that you helped maybe for several years. Why don't you, think about a common trust that can equalize the difference in their ages? Or, oh, wow, I didn't know that was possible. Sure. Anything is possible as long as you think about it and plan for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different complexities and everybody's situation is so unique, right? And it's good to know that there's at least professionals that can help you navigate a lot of that, because I venture to say that there's so many people that don't understand a lot of this, a lot of what you're talking about today, right? So, again, it was great to hear a lot of your expertise. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers where they can find you?
Yeah, www.thelawcollaborative.com. That's our website, very robust, lots and lots of articles, links to our blog. There are tools on the website. It's another source of referrals for us, because people, in searching the internet, they come across our website, and it is really robust. I'd encourage people to go there and check out what we do.
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for sharing a lot of what your stories have been about. This has been a really good segment for us, and I want to thank also our viewers and listeners for joining us. It's been a great legacy stories podcast today. Thank you, Ty Supancic, for joining us. And we will see everybody again very soon.
Thank you, Stephen.
Thanks for listening to the Your Life, Your Legacy podcast with Stan Miller and Katie Beth Hand. If you enjoyed the show, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To find out more about Stan and Katie Beth, go to pinnaclelegacylaw.com. You can also find links in the show notes.